Okay, I might start my intro while we still have a few people filtering into the webinar. So first of all, good morning. Welcome to the BGL Online Summit. This is a virtual event showcasing some of our RegTech 2025 sponsors. My name's Lily Williams and I'm the Partnerships Manager at BGL. And today's session, Turning Data into Insights to Improve Practice Management and Advisory, is co-hosted by Dashboard Insights. So today I'm pleased to introduce the presenter. We have Ryan Richardson, founder of Dashboard Insights. Dashboard Insights is the premier data analytics solution for accountants and other professional service businesses, offering tailored dashboards and insights to enhance operational performance, maximize metric visibility, and empower teams to make smarter data-driven decisions. Before we get started with the session, I will just advise you that it is recorded. So everybody online will receive an email after the webinar with a recording and the slides that we're going through today as well. The Q&A panel will be open. So if you've got any questions that you have throughout the webinar, pop them through the Q&A and we'll do a Q&A session at the end. So Ryan, I will pass it over to you to get started.
Thanks, Lily. Great to be here, and thanks for the introduction as well. So just go ahead and share my screen there. So that should be okay. Look, a little bit about us and Dashboard Insights. I'll start with me personally. I am an accountant by trade, so that's where Dashboard Insights really started. Is I own and operate an accounting firm in Melbourne called T&M Consulting. And Dashboard Insights was really drawn or built as a business to solve some of the challenges that we had internally operating our accounting practice and wanting to, I guess, improve business outcomes. So it's drawn from real world experience. Dashboard Insights still benefits from that. We're still active in our accounting practice and in Dashboard Insights as well, and that really keeps us up to date with what is relevant in the organisation or for accounting organisations. What we're here to talk about though today is turning data into insights to really help to improve that business operational aspect of an accounting practice. So we'll go through a little bit about Dashboard Insights. We'll go through some of the firm operating rhythms. We'll get into a live demo, and really what I want to focus on today is what are the really practical things that people use our product for. So what practical things are we doing, or what practical dashboards are we using to focus on things like jobs, WIP management, income tax lodgement program, and so on as well. There's a couple of announcements and next steps that you'll have to hang around for at the end before I hand back to Lily as well. So jam-packed agenda, excited to get into it, and I'll start now. So from a Dashboard Insights perspective, a little bit about us. Most people know us as a practice management solution. So essentially connecting into your practice management data. We connect into Xero, Practice Manager, FY Elite, Carbon, and others. And so most people know us for that, but we certainly do have advisory dashboards as well, connecting into a variety of different platforms as well. But the starting point and what most people want to start with us on is practice management solutions. Why? We are a data analytics solution that helps firms run a better business. Okay, so we're looking for those operational efficiencies. We're looking for the opportunity to empower your team. We're looking for the opportunity to better service your clients through a more consistent business rhythm. We're the Xero Australia Practice App of the Year, the reigning Practice App of the Year, I guess. But ultimately, what we do is more than just look after the practice management solution side of the business. So that's a little bit about us. We're seated in data analytics, but we're really born out of an accounting firm to help other accounting practices solve those traditional operating challenges that you may find in your practice. So I'm going to first share a little bit about T&M Consulting's journey. So this is our practice. We're based in Melbourne. We've grown organically since the implementation of Dashboard Insights from 10 seats to 35 and that we've done that in about 5 years. So Dashboard Insights is about 5 years old as an organization. And T&M Consulting is about 30 odd years old, but we've grown from 10 to 35 in that period of time. Now, why is Dashboard Insights here? I mentioned it was to solve some of our challenges in running an accounting practice. So what were those challenges? So you can see on the left-hand side of this slide here, we had many. I don't think it's always easy running an accounting practice, but we had limited visibility over some of the key operational areas of our practice. We had inefficient workflows. So, how were we actually managing the jobs that moved through our production line in our organization? Our team didn't have KPIs. There was no KPI reporting. And that's what we found as well, is that that's not always around KPIs that managers or owners need. This is always often about team member empowerment. So people want to know how they're doing, what is their expectation, and how can they actually achieve in their roles. We certainly didn't have clean data. We were inefficient in the way that we tracked tax lodgements. Often, a lot of this reporting in our business involved me on maybe a Friday night, sitting on the couch or at my desk, trying to collate all this information together, turn it into a couple of pivot tables, and then all of a sudden I'd send a whole of business email to the team saying, "Hey, can we please deal with this on Monday morning effectively?" Okay. They were some of our challenges. We didn't have easy access to the information that we needed to run the business and that our team members needed to make their biggest impact. So Dashboard Insights was really born to solve some of these challenges. Now, what are the solutions? Ultimately, what you're trying to do is, and we have a bit of a slogan at Dashboard Insights, right information to the right people at the right time. So this is about creating transparency within the business in the right areas, of course, so the right people get access to that right information. So you want your accountants who are functionally doing accounting work to have really good visibility over things like job flow and WIP management and so on. We have things like direct XPM integration. We don't just integrate with XPM. We also integrate with the other solutions on the previous slide as well. But we'll focus today on the XPM integration in the demonstration, because we're focused on, I guess, T&M Consulting's journey. We've optimized some workflows. We've created business rhythms. This is all about how have we done that together as a business, and how does Dashboard Insights really help with that? Our team know what their expectations are, how they're tracking towards it, and how to get that support from others in the business to be able to progress in their role. Data integrity is a big key. Our data is never perfect, but it's a lot better than what it was. And certainly, at least we've got a level of consistency that we're able to make those data-driven decisions in our business that I think are very important in the modern practice. Our tax lodgement program now is better managed than it has been. We've increased all the ATO statistics that they focused on, lodge on time, all that sort of stuff. So we've been able to optimize that again through access to information from our team. And certainly our reporting and workflow type structures have been streamlined in our business. And all of these, I guess, solutions have combined to enable efficient growth in our business. So we set out to achieve that growth. That was part of our strategy. We wanted to grow as a practice. We set out to do it in a way that didn't create a whole lot of key person dependency. Of course, there is still an element, we're a people-based business, so there is still an element of key person dependency. But certainly the solution with Dashboard Insights has meant that we've created a scalable business that's facilitated the growth in an efficient and financially rewarding way. So that's a little bit about our journey over 5 years. Hasn't been perfect, hasn't been easy, but certainly we've been facilitated by some of the dashboards at Dashboard Insights that really help to build a really good practice. And certainly, I think the biggest takeaway for us is that we're still not a perfect firm today. I think we do a lot of really good things, but we're always seeking that improvement at T&M. But on top of that as well, Dashboard Insights is on the journey as well. So as Dashboard Insights improves, it really gets the opportunity for T&M to seek that further improvement as well. So what are we really looking at today? So we're going to focus today on firm operating rhythms. Okay, so that's a little bit about our journey, and I'm going to reflect on parts of that as we talk through this. But we have rhythms on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis in T&M Consulting. So weekly rhythms include WIP, workflow, and KPIs. Okay, this is not just about having conversations with your team members about KPIs. In fact, we seldom have those conversations. It is though about the team looking at their WIP, looking at their workflow, looking at their own KPIs, working out what are the deliberate decisions that they need to make to optimize these areas of the business. This happens on a weekly basis. So as an example for WIP, we have what's called WIP Wednesday in our business for no other reason that it creates a bit of alliteration. It's the middle of the week, but WIP Wednesdays for us work. That means that our WIP is assessed across the board, utilizing Dashboard Insights to drive that WIP control and drive more regular and more efficient billing in our organization. So we don't want to rely on the last 2 or 3 days at the end of the month, or even the first 2 or 3 days of the following month in some organizations. But certainly from our perspective, we do that on a weekly basis. We also have a monthly cycle around WIP, of course. It doesn't create that WIP, it doesn't replace that. But that weekly rhythm for us is really important for WIP. We've also got a job flow and a workflow rhythm on a weekly basis, and then team members look out for their KPIs on a weekly basis as well. Beyond that, we've got various monthly rhythms as well. Okay, so data integrity is obviously very important in our practice and in most practices these days. Income tax lodgements. So where are we sitting with our lodgement program? What are our priorities? What are our next due dates? How are we all going? Now, in our business, we don't just say that it's one person's responsibility to download an income tax lodgement report and share it around and all that sort of stuff. It is a whole of business exercise to optimize our income tax lodgement program. And billing is the same. Okay, so on a monthly basis, we're looking at these 3 areas, and we've got rhythms that are facilitated by Dashboard Insights there. We'll then go into quarterly and then annual rhythms as well. So different things at different times of years. So we have quarterly reviews for staff performance as an example. So we'll be able to get through that with our team, facilitated by dashboards. And on an annual basis, we're resetting pricing. So things like charge out rates. We're looking at the retainer pricing as well for our customers. So where you're doing that regular recurring style billing, we often look at retainer pricing at least annually, but certainly that forms part of our non-negotiable rhythm. And then obviously it's a bit of a strategy reset by way of practice management on an annual basis as well. So it's these sort of operating rhythms that for us in our accounting practice are supported by Dashboard Insights and the dashboards that Dashboard Insights has created essentially to help firms with their operating rhythms. What's the impact for our business? Firstly, it's facilitated our growth. Secondly, we have a lot more of a consistent rhythm in our business, so we don't have the wild peaks and troughs that we once did have on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly type basis. We used to have these sort of big peaks and troughs, but now we're a lot more consistent with what we're doing. We don't have that sort of big end of month pressure. It's still a period of time where we focus on certain things, but we don't just have this sort of big, clear the calendar for 3-day type of a mindset to say, okay, well, that's all we're focusing on for end of month. And our team really have the visibility as to how they make their biggest impact. And I think that's really, really important with how to use Dashboard Insights to create this consistent rhythm. So that's a little bit about the firm operating rhythms. And what I'll jump into now is a little bit more of a practical approach. So I'm going to jump into a live demo, and I will share my screen now. So we're going to focus on the XPM dashboards, and I will just say though that one thing that's really important about our product is users and user groups. Okay, so while we connect to whatever practice management solution you are using, we also connect to other platforms as well, such as ledger data. You know, it might be Xero, Mob, QuickBooks, etc. We bring that all in to create an aggregated data set for each practice. What's important though is that people actually get to see this information. They may not get to see all of that information because an intermediate accountant, as an example, may not need to know anything about profitability for the firm, but maybe they do need to know about WIP, tax lodgements, and job-focused areas within your firm. So right information to the right people at the right time is our focus. Users and user groups facilitate that in our platform. Going to a full screen situation here and creating a little bit of a demonstration here, focused on some of those regular rhythms. In our practice, I mentioned WIP Wednesdays. Coming into end of month as well, we're also using these sort of WIP focused dashboards. So I've got this demonstration data here that shows a WIP management dashboard, and how that may be used within your practice might be a little bit like this. You might have $900,000 worth of WIP overall in your business, but that's the overall, that's the headline number. Okay, what does that look like? If you are running XPM, a client manager might be running or might be taking care of a particular portfolio. So you might want to see WIP by a particular client manager. Alexandra here, as an example, has $109,000 worth of WIP on clients that she manages. So if we were to click on Alexandra here, these dashboards would be dynamic and go from the $927,000 to the $109,000 that Alexandra is specifically responsible for as part of her client portfolio. Now, Alexandra might then make the decision, okay, well, it's coming up to end of month. What do I need to do? Okay, well, my top three clients here represent about a third of my overall WIP. Keeping in mind that this is client group into client name into job detail. So with a plus sign in our product, you can drill down to the operational, the really functional level. So for Alexandra here, she might be coming into end of month, looking at what does she need to complete by way of workflow coming up to the end of month. And then this dashboard might also facilitate billing. Okay. This is one example of one of those operating rhythms. It's not always about the who. It might also be about what job state are you in. So very typical job states in XPM might look like something like this. Okay, let's say the completed job state. Now this one really is worrisome for me if that number is anything like that in my practice, but I don't like WIP on completed jobs. Okay, that's not to say that every practice needs to run in that way, but in my business, in my accounting practice, I've got a system where we complete the job. Prior to completion of the job, we have billed the job. Okay, so I always want to drive this to approximately zero. Okay, now if I was to look at something like this for my practice, I'd be setting a weekly focus for the team in the business to say, hey, let's go and assess our WIP on completed jobs. What's going on? Is there a breakdown in process, or is there something that we need to solve for? Okay. So that's a little bit about how dynamic our dashboards are, but they're really designed to solve those key functions in accounting practices. Another area that I'll go to as well is aged WIP. Now, aged WIP is part of that WIP management type rhythm. You can see here different team members. I'll change this to different areas, but let me focus on the client manager area again. So we might be looking at this sort of WIP balance here, saying, okay, well, that's a lot of WIP. What we've actually seen, and we release a benchmarking report at Dashboard Insights every year. Our 2025 benchmarking report has just been finalised actually in the last week or so. What's been really important, and what we've seen a lot of accounting firms probably struggle with, is getting work done and then getting to an invoicing point. Okay, and it's really prevalent in the data. So something like this in the aged WIP type dashboard here, being able to see your WIP balance broken down by client manager or group or whatever it may be, and then being able to get your WIP to a billing point as soon as possible. Okay, obviously we know that there are different types of billing structures, including monthly billing and various other things as well. But just follow the concept that effectively what we're seeing in the data, in particular when we've looked at the Australian benchmarking report here, is that in the first 30 days, your WIP is at its highest recoverable point. So you've got to get to a billing point as quickly as possible, but ideally within the first 30 days of doing the work. So that's a really important point that I think this dashboard really helps with. Is identify certainly your aged WIP, looking at your different aging profiles and buckets and that sort of stuff. And again, you know, these sort of large numbers in that significantly aged WIP might be a concern for your practice. But this enables visibility at different areas. It's not always about a manager. It might be about a partner, a group, maybe a category if you've got different service lines such as SMSF or compliance or advisory and so on. But these are some of the areas, again, that help to create that sort of consistent operating rhythm. So we focused on WIP a little bit. I've mentioned tax lodgements as well. Let me jump into some tax lodgement type areas. So the tax lodgements for us is part of the monthly operational cycle, which might look like something like this. So I might say by a client manager here. So in this demonstration data, what you'll be able to see here is that we've got a variety of different organisations here. Now with on this left-hand side here, the lodgement program from the ATO is either lodged or it's not. Okay, we know that in our accounting practices, that's very different. We've got tax lodgements at very different states. Not started, draft, completed, etc. This shows you your lodgement program on a broad and varied type basis. So this is our tax lodgement program. You might be able to just filter down to a particular due date. So it might be, say, 31st of March lodgements as an example. So that would show you just the lodgements due by 31st of March. You might also say, okay, well, I just want to see John as client manager as an example. So how many tax returns does John need to focus on between now and the end of March? As an example, there's 51, only 6% lodged. You know, maybe we need to solve for that and prioritize those lodgements. So again, this forms part of our monthly rhythms. Our tax lodgement program isn't our only priority in the business, but it's certainly a priority. And firms typically provide feedback around this income tax lodgement program dashboard, that it certainly helps them drive and empower their team to have visibility over their tax lodgements. So there are a couple of really functional and operational areas. Now, if I go into another area here, I'll jump into KPIs. There we go. So another area here. Now, this is more, I think KPIs, what's really important is that this is more involved in team member empowerment than management. Okay, so we've got this, I guess, a traditional mindset of KPIs that is all about top-down management. I think the most important part of KPIs is really about team member empowerment. So giving visibility over what their expectations are, how they're performing towards it, and how a team member can make their biggest contribution to the business. So this is an overall summary with a lot of data that might be useful for, say, a practice manager or an owner to see data on a holistic basis. But what you might also open up for, say, an intermediate accountant, and I might just select one person here, let's say. Let's go with Keith. So Keith's an intermediate accountant, let's pretend. And these are 4 traditional KPIs, okay? So productivity, billing, recoverability, and WIP. Now, this is the summary version of, okay, Keith, this is how you're tracking, here's what your targets are. So there's transparency around the targets. There's transparency around the performance and those sorts of things as well. Now, again, Keith might be tracking on a weekly basis or even coming into end of month and saying, okay, well, I'm not quite hitting my billing target. Okay, what do I need to do? Now, if Keith went to his manager and his manager was, had a level of experience here, the manager might talk about, okay, productivity. Okay, we're slightly down on productivity. Let's go and review your timesheets potentially. Make sure we're capturing your valuable time. The next piece that they might want to talk about is the recoverability. Keith, you're doing a really good job of doing your work efficiently. So when you are capturing the valuable time, it's highly recoverable. So you're writing on 4% above your charge out rate. So that's really well done. But maybe what we're able to do here is focus on your billing. Maybe we need to focus on your WIP control and WIP management here. Okay, so we can see here that $53,000 is the WIP value for Keith here. Keith, let's work towards the end of the month. Let's go and practically find those jobs that have high WIP balances of yours, and let's make sure that we get that to a billing point by end of the month. And I think we'll be able to close this gap by way of billing. Now, if we go to the KPIs detailed area, and this is about drilling down further beyond the summary, we might focus on WIP here. We might then say, okay, well, we want to sort from biggest to smallest by way of WIP. Okay, so biggest to smallest here. Here's that 53,000. Now, this is Keith's individual time that is sitting in WIP. And you can see again, maybe it is the top three here that Keith needs to focus on. So if he was to focus on that and maybe a couple of others throughout, get it to a billing point by end of the month, we should be able to solve some of the KPI challenges that Keith's identified in his own performance. So these are some of the practical conversations that might happen in the first instance, but certainly it's an education process as well for team members to be able to understand what levers they need to pull to be able to impact their performance and obviously that of the business as well. So I think a couple of key areas at the really operational level, in particular, we've focused on WIP, we've focused on tax lodgements, and we've focused on team member KPIs. Those three areas form really important parts to the weekly, monthly, and sometimes quarterly operating rhythms. And I might just take us to a final area here in billing. So this is a little bit more high level, a little bit less operational, but still has some operational aspects. And this helps to show us as I clear these filters here because I've still got key selected. But this helps to show us what does the overall business look like by way of billing. You can see here there's various things like different client partners. You can visualize that by client manager and so on as well. You can hover over these areas. If you've got a budget entered, you can enter a budget in. So I'll just show us what that looks like here. So as you can see, you've got a budget here. You can see what that looks like on a month-by-month basis. So 25% ahead of budget for the month of October and so on. So this is the really high-level vision of what does your billing look like? What is it versus budget and so on. But then some of the deeper things that you might want to talk about or talk to, and how do we actually understand this by way of data? I think we've all been there in practices where we're thinking about average hourly rates and charge out rates for the following year. So it's a sort of a pricing sort of a discussion. So what we can see here is this is the billed hourly rate, so average hourly rate in some other terminology, and WIP hourly rate or charge out rate. Okay, so these two numbers here are obviously the averages for the business. This 102% is the recoverability. So in this demonstration data, there's been an average write-on of 2% across the board. Okay. So what you might want to look at here is, say as an example, and I might select someone here again. So let me go to Keith again. Okay, so we go to Keith. Now we want to focus on specifically Keith. So let's look at that recoverability. How might Keith have looked at it? So 4%. Write-ons on average, so 242 is the average hourly rate that's been achieved, and $233 is the charge out rate on average. So what you might want to look at here is maybe how has Keith achieved that write-on? So can we move the charge out rate to closer to 240, or maybe 250 is a more appropriate number? So at a client partner level, Keith predominantly works with Leon as client partner, also works with Jesse, and there's some other smaller areas. But when Keith works with Leon, he's more recoverable. So he is recovering at $244. So maybe we're setting a charge out rate that's closer to 245 or even 250 to try and challenge a particular individual to become more efficient and respect their career journey and growth. But this is the sort of information that's available at the click of the button. So instead of just saying, okay, we're increasing charge out rates by 5%, we're able to really quickly and easily look at, say, a particular individual and start to drill down and understand how and why a particular individual is recoverable or not. So, in this instance, recoverable with Leon, but let's understand what sort of work they do. So if we go and have a look at job category, this is typically the services that people are contributing to. So maybe we go biggest to smallest by way of time billing here. So really recoverable at tax compliance, exceptionally recoverable at the grants category, riding on 77% of their time, but not doing a lot of it. So maybe we start to leverage that skill set or experience to get Keith doing a little bit more grants related work. They're the sort of decisions that this data can drive in your practice to find those incremental improvements. And it is only about finding those incremental improvements as well in your organization. So I've jumped through a little bit of a short demonstration, really to try and talk to some of these operational operating rhythms. We spoke about WIP, we spoke about KPIs, income tax lodgements, and then we started to work towards charge out rates and billing as well. So obviously, they're examples of the sort of information that can facilitate these operating rhythms. But where to from here? Okay, so what's the actionable roadmap that we suggest in practices? So obviously, the first part is about having the information available to you. So it's the data that is available. Click of the button. Don't spend your time collating all of the information. Make sure that information is there for you to enable you to start making those decisions. So there's free trials for some of our products. So feel free to check out our website and do so. We'll provide some details around that shortly. There's scoping and delivery of dashboards. We provide specialized training and then assistance to roll out to your firm. The most important part, once you've got the tools, is to be able to implement a data-driven framework. Now, we see this in the data. We've seen it in our benchmarking report that when you've got consistency around key areas, and it's, accounting firms are complex places at times, but when we're able to break it down and just focus on some key areas on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, you see the performance differential, and you see the impact that individuals can make in the business when they've got the right information at their fingertips. So what I will say is that take away from today's session that accounting firms are very broad in their approach, but there are only a couple of key areas that really need to drive part of your operating framework to really improve your performance, and see what you can identify on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual time frame to be able to do that in your practice. So that's a little bit about how to take something from today. Now, as we start to wrap up, we're going to launch a poll as well. But certainly there's a QR or a couple of QR codes on screen. So let me first get through the poll. What would you like to do next? So learn more about dashboard insights or nothing for now. Either way is okay, and it's great to have had you on this webinar. But the two QR codes on screen, the left-hand QR code is Learn More, takes you to our website. And then the other thing that I referenced throughout the conversation today is that we have a 2025 Accounting Benchmarking Roadshow currently underway at the moment. So the QR code on the right-hand side takes you to that registration page. The roadshow actually commences tomorrow in Melbourne and then goes to 6 locations around the country. Register for that, or if nothing else, put your name down to be one of the recipients of the FY25 benchmarking report. So there's some really interesting insights from that they've been attained from the real life operational data that we've got for accounting practices, and that's a really good event that or event series that we do every year. It takes a lot of time. We love doing it. And there's some really interesting information for the 2025 financial year for the Australian accounting firms. So from there, I'm going to hand back to Lily. We've got a little bit more question and answers and so on as well.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Great presentation. Thank you. And we also had the live demo. Before we do start our Q&A session, as I did mention at the beginning, we do have the Q&A open. If you have any questions for Ryan or the Dashboard Insights team, please pop them here. We've got some minutes remaining, so we can go through that. Dashboard Insights will be a gold sponsor at this year's RegTech event. So they're going to have a stand in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sydney, Adelaide, Perth, Hobart, and Melbourne. I'm going to run a quick poll. Hopefully that pops up for you. So if you're interested in attending the in-person event, please select the preferred location. Our team can register you for free. So the tickets for RegTech are free. And alternatively, if you do have your phone in reach, you can scan the QR code on the screen and register yourself for your preferred RegTech location. Okay, so any questions? If you do have any questions, pop them through now, and yeah, Ryan can answer those for you.
Yeah, so we've just had a question here, Lily, about bringing other data sources into Dashboard Insights. So I know we focused a lot on practice management data today, but certainly whatever practice management solution you're using, we can bring that into Dashboard Insights. We obviously have a whole range of dashboards off the back of that. We also typically bring in the financial ledger data as well to bring things like a comparison between the practice management, say, revenue versus your general ledger. But it's also things like for multidisciplinary practices we see in financial planning, as an example. You might want to bring in your financial planning revenues to get this single view of what a client group might look like and where and how you're servicing your customers. So that's something that's pretty common within accounting practices as well. So in short, we can bring a variety of different data sources in, and yeah, it really comes down to the needs of the accounting firms that we're working with. Our product is a standardized product, but we also tailor and customize a lot. Okay, so while yes, we do have a starting point at a standard version, we certainly do extend beyond that. So it's very flexible depending on the needs of the firm.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So we've got another one here about messy data. Does it matter? Does it matter if we've got messy data in our practice? Look, my firm was no different. We had we didn't have a basket case of data, I guess, but certainly we had a lot of room for improvement. Our product certainly helps firms clean up their database. And what I will say is that the starting point really is to get started on Dashboard Insights, because as you plug that in, you see where your holes are that are actually affecting you by way of the information that you need. So databases are so broad and varied these days that not every aspect of your database is likely going to be perfect. But certainly the messy data is something that we help firms solve. Getting started is often the starting point, and then just incremental improvements. And look, we've never met a firm that we couldn't help by way of improving the data quality, the information needs as well, because it's really something that we sort of assist with. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I will just remind everyone online that if you did miss part of the webinar, Oh, it is recorded, so you'll receive a copy of the webinar recording, and we also post these to our YouTube channel, so you can view this, go back to it at any time. And yeah, Ryan, I want to say a massive thank you for joining me today, and to the Dashboard Insights team. We can't wait to see you guys at RegTech, which commences a week today, so next Tuesday in Brisbane. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks
Looking
so
forward
much.
to it, Lily. Thanks, everyone. And
Thank you.
yeah, see you there.